Styles make fights. Details decide them. This is round 3.
This Saturday, UFC goes back to Houston, and in the main event, we have a striker versus grappler matchup between Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez and Strickland. On paper, this could easily be a fight for number 1 contender spot. Realistically, for one of these fighters and not the other. Anthony Hernandez has won 8 in a row coming into this matchup, and is a fun stylistic clash with the now current champion, Chimaev. On the other hand, Strickland's already competed for the belt in 3 of his last 4 outings, only being successful in one of those chances. The betting line suggests that this fight won't be close. Let's go see what the numbers say. So let's start with Strickland. Started his career off in 2008 with a 15-0 win streak. That's a run that earned him a contract in the UFC in 2014. A peak of his career came when he was an underdog and short notice replacement against Israel Adesanya for the middleweight belt in 2023. A fight where everyone counted him out, and in my opinion, that fight is why he's still in main events today. For his last 4 fights, he's been alternating wins and losses, and most recently coming off of a title loss to Dricus. So he's ranked number 3. He's still in the title picture, but he needs to win here to stay in that conversation. Let's move on to his striking. Strickland is a volume striker. He likes to work behind a jab. Once he starts getting into rhythm, he'll work in a teep kick, he'll work in leg kicks, but he's primarily a boxer. He primarily likes to work with his hands. Honestly, he averages about 6 significant strikes a minute. And the thing about that stat is that I find the most crazy is that he's able to maintain that pace in championship fights. His past 5 fights have all gone 25 minutes, and he's still maintaining that pace. And that's extremely hard to do, especially at a high level. My issue with Sean is his striking defense. At range, he likes to parry punches, opposed to moving his head out the way. And that reactionary style can get him in a lot of trouble with his opponent this weekend. He also, in the pocket, he plants his feet. And when he's striking and trying to throw power, he's planting his feet in the pocket, and his shots they're coming from around. They're looping. When he's at distance, his shots are a lot more straight. His fundamentals are much better. The closer the fight gets in the striking realm, that's where Strickland's fundamentals really, really start to fade, and that's where I start to worry for him. But the volume he throws is usually what wins him his fights, not the power. So we're going to see if he can implement that against someone who's a heavy grappler. So now let's look at Sean's grappling here. So he grapples minimally offensively. I like to describe Strickland's grappling as able but not willing, if that makes sense. He's very able. He's a very capable grappler. It's not what he prefers to do. So he has a 76% takedown defense rate, which is pretty incredible for the UFC. Now, when you look at the other side of that, he hasn't fought many grapplers, especially as of late. But he still knows what he's doing. He's very, very strong in the clinch. He knows the process of defensive grappling, especially against the cage. He keeps his back off the cage very well. He doesn't stay in clinch situations for very long. He's very good at disengaging. And that's the one thing I do like about him in this matchup is he's not going to be willing to let Fluffy get his game going. Fluffy's going to have to earn it. Let's talk Strickland's cardio. We already know he's able to go 5 rounds hard. He's done it over his past 5 fights, but how does he do it? He's able to do it because he has a very fuel-efficient striking style. He doesn't load up on shots. not overextending on shots. He's just pop shotting you. Death by 1,000 cut style. Just jab, jab, leg kick, teep kick, circle out. That's all he's doing. He doesn't engage in a fight that he doesn't want to be involved in. If you're clinching him, he's ripping away. He's not playing the jiu-jitsu game on the ground. He's trying to get right back up. That's how Sean fights. Pace over power. That's his style. So is Fluffy able to get him off of his game? Anthony Hernandez started his career off of a pro in 2014. Got signed by the UFC in 2019 after starting his career off 7-0. Peak of his career came against Rodolfo Vieira, a very respected Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And it was a fight where he was a huge underdog, counted out by everybody, and not expected to submit him at all. So let's get into his striking. He likes to throw, he throws combinations. His punches come from different angles. What I like mainly about his striking is it's his segue to his wrestling. I like how he uses it to set everything up, to set up his. He likes a double jab, mainly to get in on the legs. But ultimately, Fluffy's striking game, it's pressure, and it's somewhat volume. He averages 4.5 strikes per minute, so he's throwing 2. But he's throwing on you to get to your legs. You know, and a lot of his striking numbers come from ground and pound, and clinch strikes as well. He's very, 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 very strong in the clinch. Knees, elbows, he's nasty in the clinch. Really, really fun to watch. Very, very fun to watch, right? Let's move on to his world, which is the grappling. So he's completely relentless when it comes to his grappling pressure, which is well documented. I want to say in his last 5 fights, he's attempted 77 takedowns, which is absurd. A lot of those, I will be honest with you, a lot of those are mat returns, if you ask me. He already has that body lock position. The person stands back to their feet and kind of bringing them back down. It's considered a takedown in the UFC and wrestling. That's just a mat return. Neither here nor there. Fluffy is an animal, and complete animal in the grappling department. He averages 6 takedowns a fight, and that speaks for itself. And he attempts, over his last 5 fights, he's attempted 13 takedowns fight. So he's pressure. And what I like about him is he's not just your traditional blast double leg or straight up single. He chains it all together. He's a really good chain wrestler. So from watching his film, the transition that he likes the most is he likes to drive in on a body lock. Once he gets you to the cage, he drops down to a double. And 9 times out of 10, that doesn't really work. He's just doing that then to transition into a single, then to take you down. It's impressive to watch. He's extremely high level with it, and he's extremely relentless with it because he has that process. He's not just trying to bull and muscle you over. No, he goes to the next takedown, the next step, next chain in the link. That's how he wrestles. And that's why he's able to keep that pace for power, like we just talked about before. That's why he's able to do that. It's because he's not trying to muscle anyone down. He's going through a process. Let's talk about Fluffy's cardio a little bit. So like we said, he's a process grappler. He's not a muscle strength grappler. He goes through a process. So that's a lot of the reason he's able to carry that pace late in the fight. But I would say the main reason he's able to keep that pace is he gets that control time. If you watch his fights, if you go back and look at the numbers, his control time numbers are outrageous. He gets you down, or when he gets a hold of you, it's really hard for you to get him off. And that's a big reason why I feel like he doesn't fade. His game, right? Grappling is his game, and he's able to keep it in his world. So that question, we're right back where we started. Like most fights, right? Who's able to implement their game plan? It's just a lot more intriguing in this matchup because you have someone who has such a high pace in the grappling realm, and then someone who has such a high pace in the striking realm. Historically high, not just high, historically high numbers. So it's going to be really intriguing to see who can get their game going. So let's break them down side by side and kind of see what we have. Look at some paths to victories. Look at some variables. So let's go back to Strickland. Strickland's keys to victory. He's got to keep the fight on the feet. He's got to keep the fight at distance. He has to score in between every single takedown attempt. He's got to score in between. This fight, you'll hear me say it a couple more times in this breakdown, it's all about the in-between. What happens in between each grappling exchange and what happens in between every striking exchange. That's what's going to determine this fight. So like we said, Sean's got to keep it on the feet. He's got to keep it at distance. He's got to keep scoring. Those are the three things that Sean has to do in this fight. Let's go over to Fluffy. Fluffy got to close the distance and do damage. He's not going to win this fight just holding Sean against the cage for 25 minutes. He has to do damage with his takedown. He has to do damage with that control time. He has to. Because the numbers show that Sean is going to score in between all of those takedowns. He's going to score points. So how much damage is Fluffy going to be able to do in between the striking exchanges while he's garnering control time? That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing. My official pick for UFC Houston this Saturday is Sean Strickland by decision. I'm trusting my model, I'm trusting the numbers, and I'm trusting his head coach, Eric Nixick, to have a game plan ready to defeat Fluffy. Sean Strickland by decision. All right, let's go to the co-main event. We have a matchup at welterweight between two power punchers. Geoff Neal versus Uroš Medić. Let's start with Geoff Neal. Made his pro debut in 2012. In 2017, fought in the XKO promotion against Kevin Holland for a championship belt. Found that very interesting. He is 2-3 in his last 5 outings. And 3 of his last 4 outings were actually canceled and rescheduled all within a 6-month period. So I'm not too sure what side's to blame for that. He's a power puncher. He likes to keep a nice, tight, high guard. It was a really, really good 1-2. He can throw it coming forward, and he can counter with it really well. He'll throw leg kicks. He'll throw body kicks. He'll snap a high kick. He'll kick at all 3 levels occasionally. He's primarily a boxer. The things I don't like about Neal's striking are the way how high he holds his hands. He leaves his whole body completely exposed, and he does not check or address leg kicks at all. He just takes them. I just don't know how that's going to fare against an opponent like he has on Saturday. He also has a bad habit of backing away from the action, dropping his hands and shaking them out. And it's very similar to like what Michael Chandler does. Once again, doing that against a very, very lanky opponent, I don't know if it's too smart. So let's move on to his grappling. In clinch situations, he's usually able to at least keep it neutral at worst. Most of the time, he's able to win those clinch situations. He knows the process. He knows the process of hand fighting, digging underhooks, ripping up overhooks. He understands how to grapple. It's very similar to Strickland. He just doesn't prefer to do it. We'll look at the numbers here. And his takedown defense is 87%, so he doesn't spend a lot of time on the ground. Another issue I do have with Geoff Neal, I hate to be being critical, but just his optics late in fights, the way he looks, the optics he gives the judges. He doesn't slow down, but he's usually on the back foot if fights do go later. He'll still throw hard, he's still throwing volume, but he's usually on the back foot and he's usually reacting. So yeah, it's not that he has bad cardio per se. He just gives a bad look to the judges, if you're asking me. He he just looks tired at the end of fights. He looks tired. He doesn't fight tired per se, but he just looks tired. He came out publicly recently and said something along the lines, I don't know the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of him not being sober up until the fight camp for the last like 4 or 5 years. So that could be a testament to his 2-3 record over the past 5 fights. So I would just keep that in mind if you have him on any slips this weekend. All right, let's talk about Uroš Medić. Made his pro debut in 2016, won a contract on Dana White's Contender Series in 2020. 3-2 in his last 5 outings, and his last 3 wins have all come in the first round. So let's see how Medić uses his hands. So he averages 5.5 significant strikes a minute, throws a really hard straight left, throws really heavy body kicks. Fights well at his range. He fights long. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the way he holds his hands. He has an open guard similar to how they do at City Kickboxing, and I'm just not a fan of that striking style. He has a really good pull counter. He's able to draw his opponents into shots very, very well. And he's just not scared of a dogfight. Primarily likes getting it done on the feet, but he can grapple as well, so let's get into that. Good takedown defense ratio at 55%, but I don't think he's going to need that in this matchup. He's strong in clinch situations against the cage. He knows the process to keep himself safe, to get out of clinch situations against that cage. But once he gets to the ground, he has a hard time getting back up. That's something that I've noticed watching tape. He doesn't do the right things to get back to his feet once he is flattened out. So overall, I think this fight stays on the feet. I think this fight ends inside of 5 minutes. And my final prediction for the co-main event at UFC Houston is going to be Geoff Neal by knockout. I know I mentioned the way he exposes his body. I know I mentioned in the heavy kicks. I may sound a little bit contradictory, but Geoff Neal is a much better counter striker off of the back foot. I don't believe Medić fights as well as Geoff Neal moving backwards. So that's why I'm taking him in this fight. I feel like Geoff Neal has the foundation and Medić has the flash. So I'm taking Geoff Neal by knockout in round 1. So now I'm going to run through the card and give you guys my picks. Juliana Miller versus Carly Judice. I'm going to take Carly Judice. Jordan Levitt versus Yadier Dvalli. I'm going to take Yadier Dvalli. Philip Rowe versus John Paul. I'm going to take John Paul. Ramiz Brahimaj versus Punahel Soriano. I'm going to take Punahel Soriano. Nora Cornell versus Jocelyn Edwards. I'm taking Jocelyn Edwards. Luis Gurul versus Aldine Correa. I'm going to take Aldine Correa. Alibi Idris versus Ode Osborne. I'm going to take Ode Osborne. Chidi Njokuani versus Carlos Leal. I'm going to take Carlos Leal. Now we are on to the main card. Mikel Pereira versus Zachary Reese. I'm going to take Zach Reese. Jacoby Smith versus Josh Harrell. I'm taking Jacoby Smith. Sergey Spivak versus Ante Dalia. I'm taking Sergey Spivak. Dan Ige versus Mel Costa. I'm taking 50K EK to end the 5-fight win streak of Mel Costa. Once again, that's 50K Ige to end the 5-fight win streak of Mel Costa. That's my pick in the featured bout. And as you know, in the co-main event, I'm taking Geoff Neal by knockout in the first round. And in the main event, I'm taking Strickland by decision. This Saturday at UFC Houston, my most confident underdog pick is the polar bear, Sergey Spivak. I feel he was robbed of a win his last time out. I feel he's completely changed his training regimen around, considering he was in the best shape of his career last time out. His hand speed, his shot selection, just his overall boxing game improved tremendously in his last fight. And I think it's improved enough to hang on the feet with D'Elia. And D'Elia is a fighter who likes to strike to set up the takedown. And I don't think taking polar bear down is going to do him any good, considering Sergey Spivak is one of few heavyweights in the UFC who has a submission game off of his back. So I do feel Sergey will win this fight anywhere that it goes. So my most confident underdog pick this weekend is Sergey Spivak. So that'll do it on my take for UFC Houston. Got a few more days to wait. Really looking forward to it. Just wanted to mention at the top of the card in the co-main and the main event, we have 3 of the 4 fighters in those 2 fights average over 5 significant strikes a minute. So we're almost guaranteed to see hands getting thrown in the main event and co-main event. We're guaranteed entertainment. So I'm really looking forward to that. And the last thing I want to leave you with is something that my buddy and I at work, we were talking about the fights, and specifically Strickland, and I was giving him my pick and kind of telling him my thought process and everything, and something kind of hit me. People really don't like seeing someone succeed at a high level in a very simple way. I'm Rayfield. This is round 3. Thanks for hanging out.